I was walking through downtown Kampala just yesterday. It was one of those really hot afternoons where the dust is just kicking up everywhere.
Oh, I know those afternoons well.
Right, and the traffic was completely locked down near the taxi park. And I saw this poster stapled to a telephone pole. It was peeling off a bit, but I could still read the headline. It said in these big, bold red letters, Youth Capacity Building Workshop. Come learn how to be useful.
Come learn how to be useful. That is quite the aggressive opening pitch.
I actually stopped right in the middle of the sidewalk. People were bumping into me, but I just stared at it. Come learn how to be useful. Like the young people walking past that pole, the guys hustling to cell phone credit, the girls organizing their stalls. Like they aren't already useful. Like they are just waste material until some NGO puts them in a workshop.
It is a loaded phrase for sure. But to be fair to the poster, that is the standard language of our industry. It is the language of development. It implies that utility is something bestowed upon you, not something you intrinsically possess.
And that implication is exactly why I am so fired up today. That anger I felt looking at that poster, that is the fuel for this deep dive.
So hello everyone and welcome back to Deep Dive by Omuto Pulse. I am your host, I am the executive director here, the guy who is usually running around on the ground getting my boots muddy, trying to figure out what is actually happening in our communities versus what the reports say is happening.
And I am a professor at the Young Minds Institute. My role usually is to try and rein our host in a bit, to look at the data, the theory, and the academic rigor behind all that passion.
I call it passion, you call it chaos. We meet in the middle.
We do indeed. And today we are meeting over a topic that is arguably the most overused and misunderstood term in the entire Ugandan development sector. We are unpacking capacity building.
It is the buzzword to end all buzzwords right. We need to build capacity. We're doing a capacity building seminar.
Yeah.
But we have dug into the Omuto Foundation archives and pulled out a text that, honestly, it kind of takes a sledgehammer to that entire concept. The text is titled, "The Candle Within, Why True Capacity Building is About Ignition, Not Creation." And I must admit, when you first sent this source material to me, I was skeptical. I thought it was going to be another fluffy, motivational piece. But having really analyzed it, this is actually a radical restructuring of educational philosophy.
It is definitely not fluff. It is a fight. It is a challenge to the establishment.
It challenges what we call the factory model of human development. It argues that the way we treat young people, especially here in Uganda, and especially those from underserved communities, is fundamentally flawed because we are using the entirely wrong metaphor. We are acting like construction workers building a house when we should be acting like someone striking a match.
And for the listeners tuning in, specifically the young guys and girls across Uganda, this deep dive is for you. If you are that guy I saw looking at the poster, feeling like you are waiting for permission to be useful, feeling like you are stuck in the waiting room of life, well, this hour is for you.
We have a very clear mission today. We want to identify why you feel paralyzed. We want to dismantle the lies that told you that you were empty.
Yeah.
And we want to hand you the match to light your own candle.
So let us get right into it. Section 1. The diagnosis. Why are we stuck?
The source material begins with a retrospective, actually. The author describes spending over a decade working directly with interns, fresh graduates, and community volunteers in Uganda. 10 years of observation. And in academia, 10 years of longitudinal observation gives you a very strong data set.
And what is the pattern? Because you would think with 10 years of all these capacity building programs everywhere, we would have a generation that feels super confident, right?
You would think so.
Yeah.
But the author identifies a paradox. Let us call it the paradox of potential. On one hand, you have the objective reality of the young people.
The facts on the ground.
The facts. And the facts are that the average Ugandan 20-something is incredibly capable. Biologically, their brains are at peak plasticity. They're adaptable. They're energetic. And let us be honest, to survive in this economy, they've already developed resilience that most Western CEOs do not have.
You have to. I mean, if you can navigate the taxi park at rush hour, you have logistic skills. If you can stretch 10,000 shillings for 3 days of food, you have budget management skills. The raw material is absolutely there.
Exactly. The capacity in terms of raw potential is undeniably present. But then there is the feeling, the internal narrative.
The story they tell themselves.
Right. The author notes that despite having the skills to solve problems, the overwhelming emotion these young people project is unworthiness. They are scared. They wrestle with a profound sense that they are not ready.
I see this every single day. I was talking to a young guy last week. Let us call him Joseph. Joseph is an absolute wizard with video editing. He learned it all on YouTube using a cracked smartphone. He's making these incredible little clips for his friends. I asked him, Joseph, why aren't you bidding for these wedding contracts? Why aren't you pitching to corporate clients? You could be making real money.
And let me guess what Joseph said.
He looked at his shoes. He literally shrank physically in front of me, and he said, I don't have the certificate yet. I need to go to the institute and get the paper. I am not a professional.
This is the if-only trap. The text identifies this explicitly. It is a psychological mechanism that delays action. If only I had the title. If only I had the money. If only I had the degree.
But hold on. You are a professor. You work at an institute. Are you saying degrees do not matter? Because that sounds a bit dangerous.
I am certainly not saying education does not matter. Education is vital. But there is a massive difference between education as learning and education as permission. In Uganda, we have a very specific history with this. It goes all the way back to the colonial civil service structure.
Break that down for us. How does history affect Joseph and his video editing today?
Well, for decades, the only path to a good life, a stable life, a life with a pension, was to join the civil service. And the absolute gatekeeper to the civil service was the certificate. If you had the paper, you were in. If you did not, you were out. It did not matter how talented you were or what you could actually do. The paper was the only key.
So we have generations of parents telling their kids, get the paper, get the paper, get the paper.
Precisely. It became a cultural safety mechanism. So now you have Joseph.
Yeah.
He has the skill. He can do the video editing perfectly, but he does not have the paper. So his brain, conditioned by society, tells him you are not safe to operate. The degree acts as a permission slip.
Like in primary school. Teacher, please, may I go to the toilet?
It is exactly that dynamic. It infantilizes adults. The text argues the young people have convinced themselves that they are literally not allowed to be effective until an authority figure hands them a slip of paper. They're waiting for someone to unmute them.
And the tragedy is, while Joseph is waiting for the paper, someone else, maybe someone with way less talent but more audacity, is taking the job. Or worse, the job just does not get done and the economy suffers.
That is the ultimate cost of the if-only trap. It is a complete paralysis of potential. Joseph is sitting on a gold mine of talent, but he is starving because he thinks he needs a mining license just to pick up a nugget off the ground.
Which is just heartbreaking. And this leads us directly into the second section of the source material. We need to talk about why Joseph feels this way. Where did he learn that he was incomplete without the paper? The text calls this the manufacturing myth.
This is where the author really starts to deconstruct the term capacity building. And this really resonates with the empty vessel fallacy in educational theory.
Okay, explain the manufacturing myth first.
Imagine a factory. Let us say a factory making plastic chairs. You start with raw plastic pellets.
Yeah.
They have no shape. They have no utility.
Yeah.
You have to melt them, mold them, cool them, and assemble them. You are creating the chair from scratch.
Right, and if you stop the process halfway here, you do not have a chair. You just have a useless lump of plastic.
Exactly. Now apply that logic to a human being. The manufacturing myth suggests that a young person is like that raw plastic. They are empty. They are a vessel waiting to be filled.
And the capacity builder, the NGO, the teacher, the boss, is the one doing the filling.
Correct. This is what the philosopher Paulo Freire called the banking model of education. The student is an empty bank account. The teacher deposits knowledge into them.
It sounds efficient, though. Like, I know things you don't. I tell you, now you know things. What is the actual problem with that?
The problem is the power dynamic and the fundamental assumption of emptiness. If I treat you as an empty vessel, I am stripping you of your agency.
Yeah.
I am telling you that you have absolutely no value until I give it to you.
It creates dependency.
Total dependency. If you believe you are empty, you are constantly looking outside yourself for substance. You become a perpetual consumer of training. I need another workshop. I need another certificate. Because you fundamentally believe you are lacking.
Man, that really hits home. We see these workshop hunters in Kampala all the time. They go from hotel to hotel, eating the samosas, sitting in the AC, getting the certificate, but they never actually do anything with it.
Because the model tells them that the value is in the workshop, not in themselves. They are waiting to be finished. But the revelation in this text, and this is the core argument we're making today, is that human beings are not manufactured products.
Capacity is innate. That is the line from the text.
It flips the script entirely. We're not building something from scratch. The capacity is already there.
So Joseph isn't raw plastic. He is already the chair.
Or better yet, he is not an object at all. He is a force of nature. Which brings us to the central metaphor of this entire deep dive. Section 3, the candle.
I love this imagery. It is simple, but the more you think about it, the deeper it gets. The text moves completely away from building and it introduces the candle.
Let us visualize this. And I want you, the listeners, to really picture it. Picture a candle sitting on a table in a dark room. It has wax. Maybe it is a big, thick pillar candle. It has a wick running right through the center.
Okay, I see it. It is unlit. It is dark.
Now ask yourself a basic physics question. Does that unlit candle lack the capacity to create light?
No. The potential for light is chemically stored right there in the wax. The delivery system is the wick. It is all there.
Is it broken?
No.
Is it empty?
No.
It is simply unenkindled. It just hasn't been lit yet.
That is a massive shift in perspective. The Omuto Foundation philosophy is, quote, "We are not here to make candles," end quote.
The world is not short of potential. That is another great quote from the source. Every young person is a candle perfectly formed and ready.
We are here to provide the light.
Think about how that fundamentally changes the job description of a leader, a parent, or a teacher. If I believe my students are empty buckets, my job is to shovel information into them until I am exhausted. It is heavy lifting.
And it is arrogant, too. It assumes you are the sole source of all things valuable.
Exactly. But if I believe my students are candles, my job is not to build them. My job is simply to find the wick and strike a match.
Ignition versus creation.
It is a facilitator mindset. It implies profound respect. It says, I know you have the fuel. I trust that you have the wax. I am just here to help you start the reaction.
And for Joseph, our video editor, this is such a liberating thought. He does not need to be fixed. He does not need to be constructed by a university. He is already made. He just needs a spark.
It moves the conversation away from what am I lacking to where's my fire.
But let us be real for a second. I can hear the cynics and maybe some of the parents listening to this right now. They are saying, that sounds nice and poetic, but my kid is sitting on the sofa doing absolutely nothing. If he is a candle, he's a very dusty, bent candle.
A fair point. And the text actually addresses this directly in section 4, identifying the spark. Because you are right, the spark isn't always obvious.
Especially for marginalized youth, the text talks a lot about the hidden talent.
We have a very standardized view of what talent looks like. In Uganda, talent looks like getting good grades in your PLE. It looks like speaking fluent English with a specific accent. It looks like being naturally good at math.
If you fit that box, everyone says, you have so much potential.
But what about the kids who do not fit that box? The text mentions those lacking formal education or financial backing. The world looks at them and says there is no wax there.
But the text says when you look closely, you see it. So what does a non-academic spark actually look like?
The source gives some beautiful specific examples. Telling a story that captivates peers is one of them.
Let us pause on that one. I know guys who work at the Boda Boda stages. They did not finish S4. But when they start talking about politics or the weekend football match, they can hold a crowd of 50 men in the palm of their hand for an hour. They are funny. They are persuasive. They understand comedic timing.
That is high-level communication.
Okay.
That is marketing. That is public relations. But because it is happening at a Boda stage and not in a corporate boardroom, we dismiss it. We do not call it a skill. We call it noise.
Right, or the text mentions a natural rhythm for dance or a knack for fixing things.
The knack for fixing things is a huge one. We have so many young people, these Dwakali engineers, who can fix a radio, a generator, a smartphone without ever reading a manual. They understand complex systems intuitively.
That is the wax. That is the fuel. But here is the major problem, and the text highlights this as a massive barrier. What happens when these young people see their own sparks?
They engage what the text calls the self-dismissal mechanism.
It's nothing. Anyone can do it.
That is the exact quote. And psychologically, this makes perfect sense. We as humans value what is scarce. We value what is difficult. So if I can fix a radio easily, if it just makes sense to my brain, I assume it must be easy for everyone else too. Therefore, it has no special value.
We think work has to be suffering to be real work.
Exactly. If I am not struggling, I am not working. So the young storyteller says, I'm just talking. The young mechanic says, I'm just tinkering. They completely devalue their own gold because they did not have to dig through solid rock to find it.
And that self-dismissal is literally like throwing water on their own wick. It prevents the ignition from ever happening.
It does. And this is exactly why we cannot do it alone. A candle has a very hard time lighting itself. It needs an external source of fire.
Which brings us to section 5, the role of the mentor.
If the youth is the candle and they are busy dismissing their own talent, what is the mentor?
The text uses two powerful images here, the mirror and the flame.
Let us unpack the mirror first. because I think a lot of well-meaning mentors get this completely wrong. We think mentorship is about giving advice. Let me tell you how I did it.
When I was your age, I walked 10 miles to school barefoot in the snow, even though we don't have snow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the text says the primary job of a mentor is to be a mirror.
The mentor's job is to actively disagree with the youth's self-doubt.
Think about that for a second. You have to actively disagree with them. When Joseph says, oh, the video is nothing, I just threw it together, the mentor has to step in and say, stop.
We have to interrupt that negative tape playing on loop in their head.
You have to hold up the mirror and say, look at this. Look at the pacing of this edit. Look at how you match the music to that visual transition. That is not nothing. That is skill. That is highly valuable.
You are externalizing their talent so they can finally see it objectively.
Yes.
Yeah.
You are validating the data, not just cheering for the person. It's not just saying, good job, Joseph. It is saying, Joseph, you have a core competency in nonlinear editing that is market ready right now.
That level of specificity really matters. It turns a weekend hobby into a legitimate profession in their mind.
And once that recognition happens, once the spark is firmly identified, then the mentor becomes the flame.
From spark to flame, this is the support phase.
This is where you provide the actual platform. Maybe you introduce Joseph to his first paying client. Maybe you lend him a better laptop to render his files. You fan the flame.
And the text describes the transformation as almost magical. But it is not magic, it is just physics. Once the fire catches, it grows naturally.
The text mentions young people going from saying, I can't, to suddenly starting businesses and leading community initiatives. And notice the timeline here. This does not take 4 years like a university degree. Ignition can happen in a single moment.
That one moment of belief, oh wait, I actually can do this.
But in these structural discussions, even with a great mentor, even with immense talent, there's a massive systemic barrier we still have to address.
The greatest limiter. Section 6, the mindset shift.
The text argues that the absolute greatest limiter is not a lack of resources. It is not even the government. It is a wall in the mind.
It is the old story narrative. And I want you to break this down because this is the story every single Ugandan parent tells their child from day one.
The old story is purely linear. It assumes a successful life happens in a strict, unbending sequence. Step 1, you finish your primary and secondary education. Step 2, you go to university and get the degree. Step 3, you get a master's degree because nowadays the bachelor's just isn't enough anymore. Step 4, you find a stable job, ideally in a nice office with AC. Step 5, you work quietly for 20 years. And then finally, step 6, you are allowed to be a leader and make a difference.
It is the waiting room philosophy. It basically tells you that your youth is just a time to stand in line and be quiet.
It implies that making an impact is the exclusive privilege of the old and the established. It tells a brilliant 22-year-old, you are not ready to solve real problems yet. Sit down. Listen, learn, wait your turn.
But look around at our country today. Look at the continent. We have the youngest population in the world. We have climate change severely hitting our agriculture right now. We have public health crises. We have extreme economic instability.
The problems are incredibly urgent.
Do we honestly have the luxury of telling our brightest, most energetic minds to wait 20 years before they start helping us?
No, we absolutely do not. And this is what the source calls the urgency of now. It suggests that waiting is not just unfortunate, it is actively dangerous to our future.
The world does not need people who are waiting.
The world needs active participants. It needs innovators and creators solving problems today. The text argues that young people must trust themselves to rise to the moment right now.
It is almost like a call to civil disobedience against the timeline. It is saying, do not wait for the baton to be passed to you. Just start running your race.
But I want to emphasize that this isn't just about individual success. It is not just about Joseph getting rich from video editing. Because if Joseph lights his candle, what happens to the rest of the room?
Section 7, the ripple effect.
Back to the physics of fire. If I use my brightly lit candle to light your unlit candle, do I lose any of my own flame?
None at all. You do not get dimmer just because I got brighter.
In fact, the total light in the room instantly doubles. Fire is one of the only resources in the world that multiplies by division.
Man, that is deep. Fire multiplies by division.
The text argues that the true purpose of the flame is not to hoard it. If you are the only lit candle in a massive dark room, you are lonely, and your visibility is still pretty limited.
But if you light the person next to you...
The text describes a literal chain reaction. One person touches the wick of another, and then they touch another. until billions of candles are burning simultaneously.
It moves from a world of isolated, unlit candles to a world blazing with light.
This is the deeply collective aspect of the Omito Foundation philosophy. We so often think of capacity building as a selfish individual pursuit. I need to build my capacity to get my job. But true capacity building is communal. It is, I need to ignite myself so that I can ignite you.
It sounds a lot like Ubuntu, doesn't it? I am, because we are. My light absolutely depends on your light.
Exactly. We cannot do it alone. Individual ignition is meant for collective illumination.
Okay, we have covered so much ground here. We have diagnosed the paralysis, we have destroyed the manufacturing myth, we have lit the candle, we have shattered the timeline. But this is the deep dive. We do not just leave people with warm, fuzzy feelings and philosophical theories. We need to talk about action.
The source material is very specific and practical here. It offers a clear roadmap in Section 8 Practical Application.
The Omito Foundation actually gives 3 specific ways for anyone listening to join this movement right now.
First, volunteer your time and skills.
And I want to be really clear on this one. This is for the listeners who maybe feel like they are already lit. Maybe you have a solid job. Maybe you have specific technical skill.
You do not need to be a millionaire to be a philanthropist of light. Do you have time? Can you be a mirror for someone who is doubting themselves? If you are a trained accountant, can you spend just 1 hour with a young shopkeeper showing them how to easily track their inventory? That is ignition.
You don't need to start a massive NGO. Just mentor one person in your neighborhood. Each one teach one right.
Second, apply for an internship.
Now, this is for the Josephs out there. If you are sitting there listening to this thinking, okay, I think I have a spark, but I am completely surrounded by wet blankets. I need a place where the wind won't just blow me out before I get started.
Omito Foundation actually creates those specific safe spaces. They offer internships that are explicitly designed to be ignition chambers. It is not about fetching coffee or making photocopies. It is about actively finding your wick.
And third, share the conversation.
This one is vital for the broader culture shift we need. We really need to change the narrative in our homes.
We need to start asking our kids, when will you get a real job? And start asking, what is your unique spark and how can we help you light it?
Share this deep dive. Send the source text to your family WhatsApp group. I know everyone listening has at least one of those groups. Start the debate there. The website is omuto.org. That is OMUTO.org.
Go there, connect with them. Please do not let this just be another audio track you listen to on your commute and then completely forgot about by lunchtime.
So to really wrap this up, we are proposing a fundamental paradigm shift today. From manufacturing to ignition. From empty vessel to candle. From waiting to acting.
You are not empty. You are a candle perfectly formed and waiting for a spark. In our country, the world really cannot afford for you to stay dark any longer.
And I want to leave our listeners with the final provocative thought pulled directly from the source text prompt. Ready to ignite the spark.
Here is the question I want you to really carry with you today. Be completely honest with yourself. If we stripped away the need for a university degree, if we stripped away all the excuses you make about needing fancy titles and more money, what is the specific spark you are hiding right now?